Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. First, I would like to say happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian subscribers out there in YouTube land. I hope you all have some sense of normalcy by celebrating this holiday with your families and friends. Now, at time of me recording this, it is a Saturday, so I'm going to have to run out shortly and go do some grocery shopping and buy my turkey. And for this reason, I will only have one story to share with you all today, so I hope you guys don't mind. Next week we'll be back to some normal time frame and have some multiple stories to share with you all. In any case, this one story took place in the state of Oregon. Now, I'm always looking for great stories to be shared on this channel. So if you have a story that you would like to share in a safe environment, then forward your encounter stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. And that being said, go grab yourself a beverage and get cozy on the couch or chair and sit back and relax. All right, so this story takes place mid-March of 2002. It takes place in Benton County, Oregon, and the closest town is Greenberry. Although this one here takes place more on the Buck Mountain Range area. I believe it would have been Benton County, although we may have crossed into Lincoln County. It was March 2002, around noontime. It was in the middle of March, and Joe and Anita, names changed by request, and myself were in the Oregon Coast Range, just above a little town called Greenberry, about 30 miles west of Corvallis, or in Spanish, I would think it would be pronounced Corvallis. Driving up a BLM road to the southeast side of Buck Mountain, just south of Mary's Peak, which is the highest point in the Oregon Coast Range. We rounded a 90-degree turn to the right, where several trees were down across the road, blocking any driving further up the road. The fallen trees had been cut, and we figured the area was zoned to be logged or something. It was strange that the cut trees would be left laying across the access road, though. We were just driving around the countryside and chatting, and not having much else to do. We decided to get out and have a little walk in. It was misting. We climbed over the trees and were basically just walking and talking and drinking our first beers of the day when we came across another 90-degree turn, this time to our left. It was here that Anita first saw what she thought was a track. Not even thinking anything remotely like Bigfoot, we examined it, and it sure looked like a footprint to us. I then looked down, and beside my foot, I nearly stepped on it, was a very clear footprint that clearly showed 5 toes. The imprint was of a bare foot, no shoes. We couldn't believe our eyes. We began tracing the footprints up the mountain. The tracks were clear as day. One step, then another, and so on. The biggest track was about 15 inches by 6 inches wide. This distance between each track moving up the hill was a greater distance than I could stretch my legs coming down. I do not know the exact stride measurements, but it was beginning to rain now. All of the imprints, probably only 2 or 3, were what I would call clear footprints. The majority were simply huge ruts that had been left by something big stomping up that grade. The tracks were very obvious and, as Joe mentioned, showed that something was scrambling to get out of here. At this point, Joe left to go get a camera that was in the truck. Anita and I stayed and continued to look for more tracks. She retraced the steps to try and get an idea of where it had come from. I moved to the right of the tracks looking for just whatever when I came across a paralleling trail of tracks. These were not nearly as large as the first set of tracks and seemed to be moving in the same direction as the larger set of tracks. Then suddenly, the second set of tracks took a hard right and angled up to the road towards the general area where we started our walk at the cut trees across the road that blocked the car access. I followed the tracks to the road and then I lost them where they went up the mountain on the opposite side. Heard birds calling in the rain. Around this time, Joe arrived back with the camera. I can still remember the first thing he said, and that was, "Did you guys hear anything?" We hadn't heard anything, but I had heard two loud bird calls that I distinctly remember thinking had a funny ring to them. Nothing bizarre or totally strange. I just didn't know what kind of bird it was. Joe was silent for a moment and then said, "I heard birds calling at the truck." Birds don't call in the rain. He was right. Anytime you're outside when a rain is coming down, listen, there won't be any birds calling. Next, he took a look at the tracks I showed him that I found. They were now pooling up with standing puddles of water. The rain was really coming down. Whatever made these footprints had crossed the road seconds before we rounded the corner. They heard us coming. Whatever it was down in that ravine could hear us talking and probably making plenty of noise on the gravel. The track maker had taken to higher ground in a hurry. Were they still there? I don't know, but they could have been, and we didn't see them. The area above the road we walked up on was much higher and heavily timbered. There was no odd smells, and we never felt like we were being watched, but the odd birds-like calls did have us talking later. Birds do not sing in the rain. That was it. We never saw what had made the tracks. They were not bear tracks, nor were they made by big bull elk. The tracks were human-like with 5 toes showing, not cloven hooves. The only other thing other than a Sasquatch that could have made the tracks would have been an enormous man without any shoes, but no one was up there. Certainly no vehicles, as the downed trees that had fallen across the main road prevented anyone with wheels access to this particular area. The terrain was extraordinarily steep and thickly wooded. Ranger slips up. Interestingly enough, the very next day, Joe called a ranger or forestry station nearby. He told them that he had found a big barefoot track. The ranger quickly replied, "Well, yes, there are bears up there." Joe interrupted. "No, I mean big bear human tracks." What the ranger said next shocked Joe silent for a moment. The ranger said, "Oh, you mean Sasquatch tracks? We had some of those last year over in Colton. We didn't know what to make of them." Joe told me that the man then suddenly clammed up, as if he suddenly realized what he had said. Okay, I truly enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys did as well. And again, I am apologizing for this being somewhat of a short story today, and the only story today. But like I stated, we will have more coming up in the upcoming weeks, and we may even get to some spooky stuff since Halloween will be right around the corner. What I found interesting about the story, but I'm not shocked or surprised, is that the ranger kind of let it slip that they know of Sasquatches in that region. I mean, he clearly stated that they've seen him over in Colton over the years. And so, I would really love to hear stories from anyone working in the forestry industry, whether they are logging or whether they're rangers or, tree planters, for instance. I think it would be really cool to get stories in from summer students who go out to BC, for instance, and they plant trees for the summer. It's good money, apparently. And there's really nowhere to spend your money because you're at a fixed location. But it would be really cool to hear stories from that sort of group or in of that industry, because they're always out in the forest. And so they must have some really good stories to tell. But in any case, I'm rambling on now, so I'm going to stop. As a closing remark, I would like to say that if these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be more than honored to share your story on this channel. And again, thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit that like button on your way out, and remember to smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. And again, to all the Canadians out there in YouTube land this holiday weekend, have a very happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy your turkey. And guys, we'll see you all next week.